Now, the leaders of the West will, of course, have their eyes on the Central Asian nation of Uzbekistan. The country is hosting the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, where the grouping is all set to expand further. The leaders of Russia and China, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping, are making rare trips abroad for the summit amidst the war that is ongoing in Ukraine. And they'll, of course, be joined by leaders of India, Pakistan, Turkey, Iran, amongst other nations. Now, both China and Russia have long sought to position the SCO as an alternative to the Western multilateral groups. They could also possibly be closer to this aim now than ever before. And the summit takes place against the backdrop of the rapidly changing geopolitics. Russia has time and again called the geopolitics of the American-led Western alliances as completely predatory. It has cited Finland and Sweden's NATO application as a classic example. And to counter this, Russia is planning to fall back on its SCO partners. The top two being China and India, and China's slant towards Russia over the Ukraine war is pretty clear. Beijing is not a part of international sanctions against Moscow. And China's relations with the West have in fact plunged to an all-time low, especially in the aftermath of the tensions over the fourth Taiwan Strait crisis. Now, China is also standing against the US as a hegemon in the Asia-Pacific. So both Russia and China are in fact showing signs of resisting not just the American power, but also they're trying to rewrite the existing global order. Now, India's partnership is also extremely crucial for Russia. The world's largest democracy and also key Quad member has maintained pretty close ties with the United States and the West, and at the same time has done a pretty delicate balancing act of having very strong ties with Russia despite the war in Ukraine. Now, New Delhi has refused to take sides in the ongoing war, much to the dismay of the West. India has abstained from the United Nations voting on the Russian invasion. The country has in fact instead called for a diplomatic solution to the war in Ukraine. Now, India's import of Russian oil has soared since the Ukrainian invasion. Russian President Vladimir Putin will be holding a bilateral with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the two are expected to discuss issues of strategic ability, the situation in the Asia-Pacific, and also bilateral cooperation within the United Nations and the G20. But India also has its reservations. It may have to ponder upon whether or not to back Russia's alternative to the West. New Delhi is clearly not anti-West. It even has its long-standing issues with Pakistan, and with China, tensions have mounted in the last couple of years due to the border disputes along the line of actual control. Now, adding to the West's list of concerns is the SCO expansion and also the inclusion of its latest member, Iran. Now, Tehran is gaining full membership of the SCO, and Iran has been long waiting for this big diplomatic success. And apart from better trade, economic and foreign ties, what Tehran, of course, is seeking is support from the anti-West grouping, as chances of the 2015 nuclear deal revival are looking pretty bleak because of the intense lobbying that's been done by Israel. So the question, of course, is, can the Shanghai Cooperation Organization that was formed with a focus on regional security and development, now with the changing geopolitical order, will it now turn into an alternative to the world order that was scripted in the aftermath of the Second World War, led by the United States of America? All right, now to give us more perspective in terms of what, of course, is expected at the SCO Summit, we're being joined in by WION's Siddhan, who's joining us live from Samarkand. And we're also being joined by Anas Malik, who's also joining us live from Samarkand. Now, good morning to both of you, gentlemen. Let me begin with you, Siddhan. This, of course, is a very crucial meeting of the SCO. India and several other member nations of the SCO are going to be present. Tell us what is on the agenda there.
Well, Mohammed, I'm standing near the Registan where, of course, history was written under the Timur's empire. And it looks like, again, history will be written at this year's Samarkand summit at a time when the Russian and the Chinese are keen on an alternative world order, a world order which is non-Western. We have seen changes happening in past few decades, but now that moment perhaps has come when, of course, once in a century change might occur and the balance of power is shifting towards Eurasia and Asia. On the agenda, of course, will be expansion of the grouping, Iran becoming a member, usage of local currency when it comes to trade. We know Russia faces sanctions and isolation in the West, and it's keen to engage and embrace with Asian giants like India and China, both of whom are members of the grouping. And we know that the Russian President Vladimir Putin has meetings with his counterparts from China, the Chinese President Xi Jinping, and with the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The first bilaterals with both the leaders since the Ukraine conflict. And thirdly, the major focus will be on how this grouping can play an important role in terms of dealing with counterterrorism, radicalization, and of course, as the Uzbeki hosts have been saying, making sure that each member is strong so that SCO can be a strong grouping. So largely what happens here will be closely watched in the West. In fact, the D-Day is on Friday. Today is the day when we will see a lot of informal engagements, including a boat ride of the SCO leaders later today. The meeting between the Chinese and the Russians could also take place today.
Absolutely indeed. Siddhant, do continue to stay on with this because I want to discuss more with you. But in the interim, I have got Anas Malik, who is also joining us live from Samarkand. Anas, this is a crucial meeting of the SCO that will happen today and tomorrow. Pakistan is a member nation of the SCO. Tell us what is lined up for Shehbaz Sharif, the Pakistani Prime Minister, in terms of his engagements there.
Well, Saleh, you rightly mentioned that SCO is an important multilateral fora for Pakistan to engage at, and that's what we're seeing for the Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who is due to arrive in less than 2 hours from now here in Samarkand. And on the agenda, on the cards today for Shehbaz Sharif, he's landing at around 10:30 local time. He'll be heading to Hazrat Khizr complex, from where he will come back to his hotel where I am, and then he will be first holding his meeting with Tajik President Imam Ali Rahmanov, and then the Uzbek President Shaukat Mirziyoyev. These are separate meetings. After that, at afternoon, late afternoon to be precise, he's holding his key meeting with his Russian counterpart, President Putin, Vladimir Putin. That key meeting will be watched out very closely because it comes in the backdrop of those allegations by the former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan on this very government or this regime itself. Then, after his meeting with President Putin, then the Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif will be meeting Irani President Ibrahim Raisi. After that, Belarusian President Lukashenko, and then the President of Kyrgyzstan. And lastly, after which he will go to the informal dinner, which has a boat ride. After the informal dinner, he is to meet the Turkey President Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
Absolutely,
Saleh?
indeed, Anas. So it's a pretty busy day for Shehbaz Sharif that's in fact been planned out. Do stay on with us because I'll come back to you for other issues that I want to discuss with you. But Siddhant, if I can get you in on this, the Indian Prime Minister is also going to be in Samarkand today. Now, it's an important grouping that will have China and Pakistan, and the leaders of these nations will be under the same roof. At this point of time, do we have any information at all whether there could be a possible bilateral or even at least an informal pull-aside between the Indian Prime Minister and the leaders of Pakistan and China?
Well, Mohammed, the Indian Prime Minister, reaches the city, the cultural capital of Uzbekistan later today. In fact, there is a MEA briefing by the Indian Foreign Secretary at around 11 a.m. Indian Standard Time. Now, meeting with China and Pakistan remains the key focus essentially in terms of the news cycle, given the fact that any meeting will be seen as a big breakthrough. Now, the Chinese, the Indians and the Pakistani leadership together under the same roof is something that does make headline even if they do not meet. As of now, there is no confirmation by New Delhi, by Islamabad or by Beijing whether there will be a meeting or not. But when it comes to India and China, it's for the first time both leaders are together under the same roof since the Galwan incident.
Absolutely.
And any meeting is something that could define India-China relationship. A week before the Samarkand summit, we saw disengagement being announced at PP15. Exactly similar thing happened in 2017 when disengagement was announced in Doklam ahead of the China BRICS summit. When it comes to Pakistan, relationship remains in deep freeze, and there is no structured meeting which is going to happen, but a pull aside can't be ruled out.
Absolutely, indeed, Siddhant. Do continue to stay on with this. Now, Anas, this is, of course, something that the Western leaders will be looking at very closely. Now, the 6 world powers led by the United States are negotiating an Iranian nuclear deal with Iran. But the question that I want to ask you is, with the fact that Tehran now gaining admission into the SCO, the talk of isolating Iran on the international stage, is that being blunted? All right, we seem to have lost my colleague Anas Malik there, but these are, of course, some of the key issues that will, of course, be looked at the SCO Summit that will take place in Samarkand. Remember, this, of course, is a 2-day summit. My colleagues Siddhant Sibil and Anas Malik are presently in Samarkand and are getting the latest information as it unfolds. A very, very crucial summit of possibly one of the biggest international fora that, of course, is taking place. This, in many ways, is likely to rewrite the world order as it exists. Xi Jinping, the Russian President Vladimir Putin, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, and also the Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi, and also the leaders of the other Central Asian nations. There are a total of 8 nations in the SCO grouping. With the expansion and inclusion of Iran, there will be a total of 9 nations who will, of course, become the members of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. A very crucial summit that is to take place today and tomorrow, and we'll get you the details as they unfold. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.